Yes, yes. Once again, y'all, we are here live and direct here with the Reach Connect podcast. I'm your host, Keenan Hudson. You already know how we do it. We always come with a good bang. We come with a good show, for everybody to tune into. And without further ado, I got a good brother here today, Mr. Clay Anders. Yes, all the way over from so far away, not far away, but hey, man, Nebraska. Hey, man, you the first, man. You the first from there, man. But, man, I told the people, man, you had a powerful story that was coming, man. And I know that you was going to share it with us, man. You was really going to go in. You was going to tell us, man, how you went from being in the streets, man, going to the prisons, coming home, being successful, doing trucking, giving back to the community, and all the above. But sometimes, man, people don't know, man. Sometimes you can look like you don't have a smell of smoke on you. But I know that your story is going to touch a lot of people here, man. But without further ado, man, I just got to go ahead and just, man, let you introduce yourself, man. Tell us who you are and where you're from.
Who I am is a man just striving to find his purpose and give God the glory and honor and praise, man. My name is Clay Anders. I'm from Nebraska. I'm a former inmate, former incarcerated individual. Now I'm a community activist. I advocate for the youth, at-risk youth, incarcerated adults, mentally ill, the last, the least, and the lost. So,
So just, hey, man, I want you to jump right into it, man. Tell us, man, how was everything growing up? Like, where you from? A lot of people may have not heard of somebody that's from Alaska. We may think like, oh, that's nowhere on the map, or it's just cold out there. But tell us, man, how it was growing up in the hood and things like that.
It's funny because I'm from Nebraska, but everybody says Alaska.
I always said it twice too.
Not a lot of people really just expect anything to happen in Nebraska, So, but I can't say I grew up in like the worst conditions or anything like that. I had my father took care of me. I don't know my mother. It was very hard on my father raising two young boys on his own, but we lived in Omaha, Nebraska. We lived on 25th in Brown Street, but that's considered, the hood to some people, in Omaha, Nebraska. But we grew up out there, and then we came down here when I was about 8, 9 years old, to Lincoln, Nebraska. And, I've been living out here ever since. And, like I said, I can't say we've lived in poverty, but I know what poverty is. I've experienced it. Haven't been poor my whole life, but my father worked very hard, to provide for me and my brother. And then he got with a woman who I consider my mother, who I consider my real mother, even though she's not. She's been with me since I was a kid, and got with her, and then, they did the best they could to raise us. I'm the youngest of 5, so the rebellious child, I guess, of us, seeking acceptance, looking for attention,
So, Mr. Clay, so real quick, you already started your story off with, it was very unique because usually you hear stories the other way around. Usually it's the mom that's raising the kids, you know what I'm saying? But you said that your father raised you. That's very unique, to have a male figure raise you up. Now, let me ask you this. Was there, like you said, I know he was there, he worked very hard. But are there any memorable things in which he taught you, like in a way to live, to be a man in any type of certain way that left an impact on you, or were you just rebellious regardless and hit the streets?
Nah, my father always taught me, to be a man of honor, to have integrity, to never back down from anything. My father he was a tough individual. What most people don't know about me is, my father was very strict, and we used to get whooped so bad that we had to be taken from the home at one point in time because we used to just get whooped so bad. And it was some very strict discipline. But then when he got us back, he worked very hard to get us back. He's one of the only people in Lincoln or in the state of Nebraska that actually got custody of his kids while incarcerated in jail. And I know this to be true because I know the lawyers who were representing him, and I know the judges personally that helped make it happen. And they told me the story. And so, but my father he was always about be a man of your word, and he instilled in me with my older brother. He said, you and your brother are all you guys got. At the end of the day, if I die, you guys got to take care of each other, but you got to know how to do stuff on your own. He made sure that he taught me how to do things, whether it's build something, whether it's talk to people, whether it's negotiate, whatever it was, he instilled some principles in me that just I use with me every day, man. Not what you say is how you say it.
Wow.
There's
So okay, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. So during that time of you growing up, when did that turn happen for when you started hitting the streets and start getting involved in that life? Like when did you notice that sparrow in your life?
Man, I got my first felony charge when I was 8 years old, for breaking into my school. But I was just a kid, just didn't have nothing to do. So I broke into my school. I ended up getting a burglary charge for it. And then I want to say about 12, 13 is when I really just, not even 12, something like that, is when I really just, it wasn't no looking back. I was out there. I didn't ever want to come home. I didn't want to abide by any of the rules because my father was very strict. He was one of them. You better be inside the house when the street lights come on. Ain't no calls after 9 o'clock or so on. Like you're not finished wandering around doing whatever you want. I talk to the parents of the kids you kicking it with. He did everything in his abilities and in the realm of what he knew to make sure we were straight. Because he grew up in the system himself, so he wanted to make sure that we didn't live the same way. But I feel like the more sanctions and stuff he placed on us, the more rebellious I wanted to be, as a young man, just wanting to figure out life by myself instead of being told I can't do this, do that. So the more he told me no, the more I said no,
Okay. Cool. So the more you said no, okay, bang. So you find yourself getting into the streets. You find yourself being actually like a gang leader in the streets, correct? Were you the leader of your hood? Like how did that happen and how did that transpire once you started dealing with the prisoners?
So I joined the neighborhood called the Dully Boys, and I didn't start it, but when I got to the prison over, when I was older, I ended up becoming one of the leaders in the penitentiary and running my car for a good 7 years, something like that on the yard. So it took me a while to get up to that status, but it was all I knew at one time, man. It's all I ever wanted to be was a gangster, I wanted to be everything that I saw on TV, 'cause it's not, in Omaha, it's a lot of gangs in Omaha, that's the gang capital of Nebraska. And in Lincoln, it's not like that. There's select areas where people are, where the black community is, where the gangs are prevalent, and so I had to make it known to everybody I was gonna be one of them ones you talked about, So sorry, man, that's my dog, man.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
So you were making that name for yourself, going in there and doing these things.
Yes. So I made sure, being a light-skinned man too, I felt like I had to be, a lot more violent and a lot more, assertive with the things I did because I had a point to prove and I had an identity complex. So I felt like I had to live up to the identity of what the streets wanted me to be or expected of me. So I was 110% all in on that. I thought that's who I was. And once that identity was created, it wasn't no taking it back because once I became that person, as a younger kid, I used to get picked on. But once I became that person, then nobody pick on me no more. I
No
didn't
more.
about
Bang.
that. I got respect out of fear. So And then once I got that first little respect out of fear, you couldn't tell me nothing, you know?
Wow. Wow. So bang. So next thing you know, you get hit, you get slammed, you went right into the bang, to the jails, to the prisons. What was that feeling like, man? I mean, I'm not saying you got to go into whatever you got locked up for if you want to,
No,
but what was it feeling like going in there? Like,
I I got into it with some other brothers, and I got into a shooting. And
mm-hmm,
while on run for that, I got in trouble for possession with intent of cocaine. And
mm-hmm,
to be honest with you, man, when I went to the joint, I thought it was a rite of passage, man. You know, I thought it was a badge of honor. You know, like I'm with the big boys now. I can officially say I'm one of, you know. So I really didn't look at it like it was a big deal, you know. I was like, I had the front. I was living that lie. I was in that image, like, oh, it don't bother me, you know. But now looking back, man, when a judge tell you you got sentenced to 6 to 12 years, you looking, you know, I'm thinking like, man, how foolish was I, you know? But then, kid, you know, going to the prison, I'm like, man, that's nothing. I can do that, you know, lie
mm-hmm.
to myself, you know. But it didn't really bother me in the beginning, man. To be honest with you, it wasn't until towards the end where I was like, man, I cannot do this anymore.
Tell us about that, man. Like, how did that go? You know, after spending that time, you know, a lot of people go in, you know, you start off your bid rough. You know, you want to be this tough guy, prove a point. Sometimes you got to fight, you know what I'm saying, to establish some ground. But
Yeah,
after a while, once you start seeing it's not really getting you nowhere and you really want to go home, and you know
yeah.
that infractions and write ups will keep you from going home, what was that like when you just say, you know, I can't deal with this. I got family outside. I gotta literally go home and take care of business. What happened? Tell me that experience. What happened, man?
Well, man, that was the one thing, you know, the fights. That's what I was known for. I never backed down from any fight. I never lost a fight. I've always fought whoever ever stepped to me. If you felt like you was the biggest and baddest, and we had an altercation or a problem, or I'm not backing down for nothing because I was living that lie. And then after a while, you know, I just got tired of being tough all the time, dog. You know, it's tough being tough 24/7, man. You know, you can't have no emotions. You just always got to be, you know, on that, as they say. And I
Yeah.
got tired. I got tired of it, man. You know, and I
Uh-huh.
knew there was something more out there, and so I started to seek it. You know, and I didn't know what it was. And I,
Mhm.
be honest with you, like I said, I thought it was Islam at first. You know, I thought,
Mhm.
black man, I gotta go be a Muslim now, you know? And so
Mhm.
I went to I started going to Islam worship and started going through the motions and doing the prayers, and like I said, it got too much, you know, it felt like a chore more than anything. You know, I gotta do this at a certain time and I gotta do this 5 times a day. And I was like, man, this is not for me, you know. And then
Mhm.
one day I was going to worship again, and a brother named Curtis, um, he asked me why I was going to worship to be a Muslim, and I said, "Well, I'm black. You know, that's what we're supposed to do. You know." And he was like, "Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you about Isaac and Ishmael." And then
Mhm.
he told me about how when Abraham. Now, remind you, I didn't know nothing about Jesus, bro. I didn't know nothing about the Bible. I was clueless. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But he pulled out this Bible and said, "Let me show you where Abraham got instructions from the Lord." And the Lord said, "Take your begotten son Isaac to the mountain." And so when he showed me that, he's like, "This is what they believe. This is what we believe, because this is what God said." And then after that, after he told me that, I don't even know what made me be like, you know what? All right. It felt like that's all I needed to be done with that. Not
Mhm.
not knocking them or nothing, but it just wasn't for me. You
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
me?
yeah.
And so
Gotcha.
I was like, I'm not gonna go no more. And I stopped going, man. And then I had a buddy of mine who's from my neighborhood.
Mhm.
He came up to me one day and he told me he said, "Man, I will ride with you. I'll fight with you. I'll stand by your side. He said, but you got to know who Jesus is.
Wow.
He love you to death not to tell you. And when he said that to me, being this my younger homie telling me this, it blew me away for a minute. But something in me was like, all right. And where I was at in the penitentiary, so they had put me from maximum to minimum custody in the penitentiary. So they moved me from the front to the back. And
Mm-hmm.
front is 2-man cells, in the back it's a dorm setting of like 100 people. So they put me back there in this dorm setting, and in the back corner there was hooping and hollering all day, and my buddy that told me about Jesus, he was in that back corner. So if you didn't know any better, you would think they were fighting back there or arguing and about to get into it. But really, when you go back there and start listening, they're all talking about Jesus, and they're all talking about ways to get to Jesus and what Jesus says, and they're just citing scripture, and I'm just listening the whole time. And my buddy would chime in and he would point out scriptures. He would pull that Bible up, point out scriptures. They would go back and forth about the scriptures, so on and so forth. And then eventually it just got to the point where I was like, I'm tired and not being able to chime in on this conversation, man. And so finally I started reading on my own. And the first story I ever read was about how Rebecca was going to fetch water for the camel, for Abraham's servant, for his son. And when I started reading that, and I got some discernment and wisdom on that story, and I shared it with other brothers, and they said, man, we didn't even think of that about what I was talking to them about. Gave me encouragement, like, dang, okay, you know what I'm saying? Now I seen something they ain't see in the Bible, and they know the Bible, So that gave me encouragement. But then my buddy, who's from my neighborhood, he ended up getting paroled, and he left. So when he left, so did my fire for trying to get to know Christ, That died down. And one day I was sitting on the yard and we got mail, and my homie had sent me a book. It's the Wilmington Study Guide Wilmington Study Guide to the Bible. And there was a CO, her name is Miss Ukoma, and she was from Uganda, and she was going to pass out the mail, and she saw that Bible, and she came up to me before she passed out mail, and she said, Mr. Anders, you got this book, can I read it? And I was like, yeah, Miss Ukoma, go ahead, because she's an elderly woman, so I show my respect. Go ahead, Miss Ukoma, do what you want. She reads it, and when she came back to me and brought me my book, she said, whoever sent you this book loves you. And when she said that to me, I just, yeah, that's my dog, that's my boy, I wasn't thinking anything of Jesus at that time. Well, the funny thing is, Miss Ukoma, when I got that Bible, man, every day she would put scripture on my bed. Every day, man. Something. She would print it off. Anytime she was at work, she would print it off. She would come lay it on my bed.
Wow.
I'd read it out of respect, but I wasn't, the seed wasn't falling on fertile ground. You feel me?
Gotcha.
So one day I get into it with the COs. I forgot what I even got into it with them about, but I ended up breaking my fist, and my fist was the size of a grapefruit. And so they don't take you to the hospital in the penitentiary right away because of the security reasons. So they're going to do it at a random day a couple days later, but they won't tell you. So I was waiting to go to the hospital, and then one night they call me and they say, hey, you're going to the hospital, and when you go to the hospital, you need to pack up your stuff and go up to the infirmary. So I went up to the infirmary, and when I went up there, before I went up there, Miss Ukoma came to me. She said, Mr. Anders, take your Bible. You must take your Bible. I said, all right, Miss Ukoma. what you want me to read? And she said, you got to read the story of Matthew. You got to know who Jesus is and what he came to do. I said, all right, Miss Yukoma, because I wanted to show her respect, you know. But like I told you, man, I had no intention of reading that Bible at all. Did not care. So I go to the infirmary. When I go to the infirmary, they tell me, you're getting in a cell with a person. I said, no, that's not how this works. Because usually in the infirmary, they put you in a single man cell if you're not able to defend yourself, if you're hurt to that manner. And I'm like, you ain't finna put me in no cell with nobody. And they're like, well, we're gonna do that. And if you don't want to go in that cell, then we're not gonna send you to the hospital. So reluctantly, I just went in the cell, and I didn't know who was in the cell. I just went in there because the person in there was under the covers. So as soon as I went in the cell, they closed the door. As soon as they closed the door, the dude came out from under the covers, and it was the dude who killed my homeboy that's tatted on my stomach.
Wow.
Yeah, you know,
Wow.
and he had a broken leg, and it was almost a compound fracture. You know, it was almost out his skin, but it was just broken. You know, he had broke it a little earlier that day, and so we both in this cell. So like I said, man, I'm a man of fairness. You know, I want to be able to fight you while you're at your best. I don't want nobody to be like, oh, you only got me because I was hurt and this. No, I don't want none of that. I want you at your best. So what I did was I got my bed and I didn't talk to him. I didn't say nothing to him. We had a TV in there. I wouldn't even watch it because I didn't want to share nothing with him. So the only thing I had to do was read the Bible. And the only thing I wanted to read, because the only thing I really knew about was Matthew. So I read the story of Matthew. And it took me, I want to say like almost a week, maybe almost 10 days to read the whole story of Matthew. Because I was so stubborn and not wanting to talk to that guy that I read every footnote. I read every cross-reference. I was going back and forth and just trying to finish this story of Matthew. And when I finally got to the end of it, I closed the Bible and I looked at him and I said, hey, man, let me ask you a question. And he said, what's up? I said, do you know the 2 commandments given by Jesus? And he's like, I know one, it's love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And I said, the second one is love your neighbor like you love thyself. I said, let me ask you another question. I said, do you believe in forgiveness? And he's like, yeah. I said, you're forgiven. And I don't know why I said it, but I know the Lord gave me discernment and understanding. And I looked at it from this perspective because some of my homies, they still don't even understand this. But he was put in a situation to kill or be killed. So he made the decision that was best for him. Now, had my homie was the one that did it to him, I would be glorifying my homie, shouting him out, saying he a real one, blah, da, 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 and not even worried about him. But since it happened to me, and it was somebody that was close to me, it hit a little different, you know? But like I said, when you put in a position to kill or be killed, I don't expect you to just be like, go ahead, you know? Especially when you live in that life, you know? So after I told him he was forgiven, I was able to talk to him. I was able to even with him, you know? So the day I was getting ready to get released from there, I couldn't get released because the doctor hadn't cleared me yet. So I had to wait till the next day. But I was so fed up of being in there that I started causing a problem, you know, for all the staff. And they had all these buttons on the walls that if you ever fall or you need a medical emergency, you can press these buttons in the nurses area and all the COs and stuff come rushing to your room. So since they wouldn't let me out the room, I just kept pressing them nonstop, you know, and I was getting on their nerves. And so they took me out of that cell and put me in the suicide cell. And the suicide cell didn't have nothing in it. It had no running water, no nothing. It was just a big mat in the middle of the cell that they could strap you to, you know? And so I sat there. I tried to cause problems for a little bit, but it didn't work. I even took off the bandages on my hand because I just had screws and stuff and poles put in them. And I thought that was going to do something to the COs and make them change their mind. Like, no, don't do it. They didn't care. So I ended up knocking on the CO or on the door, and the CO, he comes to the door. I said, man, if you can do anything, man, just give me something to drink and give me my Bible. And he looked at me and he said, man, Clay, how can you sit up here for a week and read the Bible, stop and just snap on everybody like that? He said, man, you got to treat everybody like they Jesus. So then I really didn't think nothing about it. But he came back like 5 minutes later with some Kool-Aid. He came back with some Kool-Aid, some watermelon Kool-Aid, and Bible. So I'm happy. I'm cool. But I was always told, if you ever need a word from the Lord, all you got to do is pray and then point in the Bible, and he will give you some. He'll speak to you, you know. So I did that. So I prayed. I said, Lord, you know, forgive me. I don't want to be in this room. But they said, if I pray to you and I point in this Bible, you going to talk to me. So that's what I'm going to do. So I closed my eyes. I opened up my Bible. It was actually this Bible. This is my Bible. As you can see, it's got my inmate number in it, you know.
Wow.
I closed it. I opened up my Bible, pointed, and the first thing it pointed to, it said, it was a Proverbs. It said, it's a man's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. I read that, it hit me like, dang. At first I thought, I was like, man, you got lucky. Ain't no way. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, all right, Lord, I'm going to do it again. If you that good, you know? So I did it again, man. And I pointed to the part where Pilate was telling the people, or Pilate was telling the people, the blood is on your hands. Because he was saying Christ was innocent, but he asked the people, what do they want to do with him? And they said, crucify him. So he said, all right, the blood's on your hands. Even his wife had told him the night before, like, don't do it. But in the footnotes, it said he had every chance to let Jesus go, and he didn't. Take accountability for your actions. So I was like, dang, man, here I am acting a fool. I was like, oh. And so I knocked on the door and I got the CO and I told him what I read. And he said, you got to learn to walk by faith and not by sight, Mr. Anders. And I really didn't know what that meant, you know, but he was obviously a believer because he kept quoting scripture. And I said, man, hey, if you could do anything, man, just talk to the lieutenant, man. Tell him to get me out this suicide room, big dog. You know, I don't need to be in here. He's like, I don't know, man. After the way you was just acting, the way you was cussing him out and all this extra stuff, like, I don't think he finna let you out of there. So I said, all right, man. So he left. I literally prayed. I closed that Bible. I prayed, Lord, please let me out of this. I do not deserve to be in this room. I won't be cutting up no more. Immediately that door opened. And like I said, some people might call that coincidence. It ain't. So
let me. Okay, go ahead. I want you to continue. Yeah, go ahead.
Nah, you can go ahead.
Now, I was going to ask. I know that you said, from there, when they did open the door, you noticed that you had a connection with your spirituality. You had a connection with your higher source. So I know that it came a time when it was time for your release. Did you have the support waiting for you once you returned out to society? And what were the thoughts that were going through your mind when you were preparing for that?
Now, when you say support, what do you mean by
support system? Was your father waiting for you at the door? Yeah. Was your, brothers? Was your family, ready to support whatever you wanted to do? Did you have a plan?
Man, that's one of the reasons they gave me parole is I did have a plan. I actually wrote them. I told them my first day out. I wrote down what I was going to do the first day, the first week, the first month, the third month, the 6th month, and the first year. So I had and when I got out, I had then now they had let me go to work release before I got paroled, right? So I went to work release and I worked at this great job and I worked there for about 5 months and I'm talking about I saved every penny, man. Every I got, I saved. I didn't use they give you a debit card at the work release center, so you can spend money on from your paycheck. I refused it right when I got there. I said I don't even want it because I knew when I got out I was gonna have to get a car. I was gonna have to reinstate my license. I was gonna have to get an apartment, all this good stuff, right? So I knew I was gonna get out, and I needed some money. So I didn't take anything, and I sat there and I ate their bologna sandwiches, their peanut butter and jellies, that goulash. I ate everything they gave me, and I didn't use nothing. I'm talking about I didn't use nothing. So when I did see the parole board and I had a plan and I also had like $7,000 saved up, they said, "How you got so much money?" I said, "I knew I was about to get out, so I saved everything. I didn't use nothing." And they were just shocked that I took all that time to put in all that thought and effort into preparing myself. That's why they really gave me parole, is because I was prepared. Anything, not just prepared financially, but mentally. I was like, I'm done. I'm not coming back again. So when I got out, I was my support system. Yeah, my father was there, but my father, while I was in the work release center, my father had a heart attack, so he was in a coma. And when he was in a coma, they let me go see him, in the work release center. And then he ended up getting out of the coma, and I got released like 2 months later, but his heart was only working at 30%. So when my father got out, or when I got out, my father was there, but he couldn't do much for me because he wasn't healthy enough, So it was just all on me. Well, right when I got out, I was distracted by all the world's distractions, dog. Like that's why it was a blessing for me to find the Lord on the inside, because I had time to just get away and focus on the Lord, And when I got out, I got distracted quick. I didn't jump right back into that gang life or nothing like that, but I was back around the same people. You know what I'm saying? I was going back to my neighborhood. I was using drugs and all that stuff. And when I got out, man, my father, like I told you, I was at my girlfriend's house one night, and I woke up in the middle of my sleep, and I just said like when I woke up, I got to go see my father right now. Something told me I got to go see my father. And so when I got up that morning, I went and got my older brother so we could go down to Omaha to go check on my father, because I hadn't talked to him in a while. And I wasn't even supposed to leave the county because I was on an ankle bracelet, and I was supposed to contact my PO, but I was like, I don't even care about none of that. I'm just gonna go. And when I drove down there, I was thinking all of the worst things, And when I finally pulled up to his house, his backyard had all dirt in it, and it just rained a couple days prior, and there were no tire tracks from his vehicles in the backyard. So I thought that was strange. Then I went and banged on his door. Didn't get no answer. But it wasn't unlike my father to leave his cars there and just be somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Because he always was doing this traveling, that's the type of person he was. So I didn't think nothing of it. But then when I walked past his house to go to the front door, I seen a milk jug in his trash can that was a month and a half old. And I thought about that, but I really didn't think about it too much. And then when I went to the front, the mailman happened to be there at that same time. So I asked the mailman, "Hey, if you see my father as he picked up his mail?" And he's like, "No, he ain't picked up his mail in a while." So then that's when I started to, worry, man, So then I got to the point where I had to kick his door in, but I couldn't just kick his door in because he had an alarm system on it. So I had to call the police to get him to come kick in the door. And because I had to call the police, I also had to call my PO and tell my PO, like, "Hey, I'm out of the county and I'm about to interact with the police, but this is why. I'm doing a welfare check on my father." So when the police arrive, they end up kicking in his door. So as soon as they kick in the door, I tell my PO, I'm like, hey, hold on. They just kicked in his door. So I walked up to the door and I was getting ready to go in, and the cop was like, don't go in there. And so I was like, man, you tripping, man. So I pushed past him. And when I walked inside, I called out for my dad. I'm like, Dad, and then I tripped over his body, and
Wow.
my father had been decomposing for a month, and
Wow.
it tore me apart, man. You know what I'm saying? And I wailed while I was inside, but as soon as I walked out, because I had this complex that I created that I hadn't shooken yet. Tough. I couldn't cry. I couldn't show anybody my emotions. So, but because he lived in the hood, we had to board up his house immediately because he had all these valuables and stuff. And we were gonna come back the next day and clean it all out and put it in the storage unit. Well, that night somebody stole one of his trucks, and then we came back the next day and we were cleaning it out. And it was hard to clean out his house, but I just had to put on that face like, all right, get this done, And when I was cleaning out his house, my sister, she found a certificate in his. I didn't even tell y'all that. So when I got saved, man, I would call my dad every day and tell him, hey, Dad, you need to know the Lord. You need to know the Lord. You need to know the Lord. Because I got baptized in prison in 2018. I tell my dad every day, you got to know the Lord. He told me, quote unquote, I don't know. Can I curse on there? Can I say a curse word?
Well, yeah, you just keep it clean, though. Keep it brief.
Yeah. So he said, and this is just me quoting my father. He said, you just one of them Bible thumping niggas, And he said, if you believe in the Lord, get out and you start doing that, I'll check it out too. So every day for 2 years, I call him, pops, 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 pops. When I found a certificate in his drawer, it said he had just got baptized a month prior. And that, man, you have no idea how much that
gave you peace.
Gave me so much comfort, dog. So much comfort, because my biggest support system was my father. And for a man to lose his father at such a young age, it hits different. You feel me? And I can't lean on him no more for advice. I can't ask him questions. None of that. I just got to take what he taught me and then roll with it and make the best of it. And so that hurt me. But after my father died, things started changing, man. I didn't want to be that guy anymore. I didn't want to be tough anymore. What happened was what really happened and helped is the Lord sent me a good woman, So I was going to, I love talking about this. I was going to the Grand Canyon with the woman I'm with. And for some reason I prayed while we were going out there. I'd never been out there. I just prayed with her randomly. I said, Lord, if we got a good thing, her and I need you to send me a sign today. I need a specific sign. And I never asked for signs, Lord, but I need one. I said, send me an elk to cross our Jeep, to cross the path of our Jeep, so we know that what we have is a blessed thing from you, Lord. And she looked at me, and I just turned the music up, and we just kept on going, right? So we sat in the Grand Canyon about 2.5, 3 hours, man. As we were leaving the park, I was uploading videos on my social medias, and she said, babe, look up. And there was 5 elk in front of my Jeep. Okay. They were just standing there. Immediately, I started praising the Lord. Thank you, Lord. Lord, I told her, I said, oh, he love you. You bless you.
This is,
so
let me ask you. So let me ask you. I'm sorry. So wow. So you embarked on a journey where, like you said, you had the spiritual encounter. You see that support systems was very major. Miss Marquetta, I'm gonna ask you a question. Miss Marquetta Curry, I'm gonna ask you a question in just a second. As soon as I ask them this. So you see that support system was a major thing. Lord, rest your soul, your father. And I'm so my condolences on the way you had to discover him. But like you say, you were still at peace at the end of that ordeal. But then you also again built the relationship, your relationship with the woman you're with. So now, when you started to see this transformation, how did you see yourself like years from then? Like, where did you establish yourself at now? Like, how does everything look like with the success and the things that you have?
Man, first and foremost, man, everything that I've achieved, I've gotten, all the people I know, God gets the glory, bro. Christ gets
Mhm.
all the glory. He opened up all the doors. He put all these, people in my path. He's the one that put it on my heart to do this, that, and the third and go here. All I did was just become a willing vessel, man. And to look at
Mhm.
myself now from years ago,
Mhm.
I would have never thought it would be like this. Like I said, I thought I was gonna die a gangster, dog. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying?
What
I
did you accomplish? What type of things did you accomplish though? What do
man,
you have established right now? Like,
man,
what's going on?
the biggest thing, bro, is I got out that mindset, bro. I
Mm.
real I took the mask off of the man I created, and I'm starting to find out who I really am, and I'm starting to find my purpose. Even though I'm 37 years old, it's still taking years to figure it out, but I got out that mindset. The Christ took me out that mindset of the streets. I broke, the statistics are in the streets, either you die or go to prison. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Unless you walk
Mhm.
away from it. You feel me? And so I was able to beat that. But then after doing that, man, he's blessed me in so many ways. I run a nonprofit right now for at-risk youth. The reason I run a nonprofit is my niece. She
What's
was
the
actually
name of it? I'm
it's
sorry.
called my nonprofit is called Honesty Project. Honesty is an acronym that stands for helping our neighborhood, especially saving the youth. It's very important that we start helping these kids because they're facing distractions like we've never dealt with as kids. The social
Mhm.
media is crazy. But my niece, she was killed by her classmate. He intentionally gave her fentanyl. Um, and she died as a teenager, and he got sentenced to 80 years at 17 years old.
Wow.
So that's two lives lost. And it's not because he's a bad kid or she's a bad kid for, what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with that. It takes a village now. And it's always taken a village, but we've gotten away from that concept. So I
Mhm.
started a nonprofit to help fight against that. So I've been working at that. And through the nonprofit, helping these at-risk youth, I realized I can't reach every youth in every neighborhood. So I started working in the prisons, with this trucking program. I partnered with a trucking company called Pro Fleet and Hill Brothers in Omaha, Nebraska. And we all help train inmates to get their CDLs while they're in work release before they get out. So when they get out, they don't
Mm.
worry about finding a job. I was blessed by the president of Warner. His name is Nathan. He donated me a brand new semi so I could teach any kid or any felon that's getting out how to become truckers for free.
Wow.
So what the Lord blessed me with, I use to bless others. So what was freely given, I freely give.
Very good. Wow. That
Yeah.
is a blessing right there. And real quick, I know Ms. Marquetta, she said in education, we talk a lot about trauma and its impact on mind and how we respond to it. After living through your trauma, is there really such a thing as reentry? How can families better support or maintain the progress made while incarcerated through programming? And she's asking that question to you.
She said, after living through your trauma, there really such a thing as reentry.
Mhm.
Man, that's a two-edged sword right there, because there's hope, but I'm still being penalized for some of the things I did, and I thought the sentence was done.
Mhm.
Like I can't get food stamps if I needed it. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't go get an apartment. Like I have an apartment now, but that's because I know the people personally who run it,
Yeah.
and know my backstory. Outside of that, I can't get no apartment
Mhm.
nowhere else because
Mhm.
my felonies. I just got my hazmat license from TSA, but I had to jump through hoops, man. I had to literally jump through hoops to get that just because of my felonies. And but the reentry process, I mean, there is a reentry thing, it's you
Mhm.
genuinely just got to work at it, man. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you
Mhm.
really I'm reentering as a new person. I'm finally discovering who I am. I'm re-entering society as somebody else, somebody different than who I was, but with all that experience and wisdom and knowledge, and I'm using it to propel my purpose now, you know. And it said, how can families better support or help maintain the progress made while incarcerated through programming? Man.
Yeah.
Man, how can families?
And that's tough. Like she said, how can families better support it? And a lot of times you look at families, and a lot of times you refer to families as support system. But a lot of times, yes, families, you know, they're living a life already out here. You know, so it's a lot of things going on. They have to keep up with life, they have to keep up with bills and et cetera, et cetera. However, the little support of like probably group meets, Zoom meetings, which they really don't do right now, I don't think, can be a big part. But the biggest support that the family can be is when you do come home.
Yeah.
When you are preparing that transition, having your back, you know, or guiding you in certain ways, not just giving to you, because I tell everybody all the time that rock bottom is going to teach you lessons the mountaintop won't. So if you give somebody just everything all at once, they won't learn their lesson. They won't learn how to gain and grow. You see what I'm saying?
One of the things is when people come home with their families, one, show them love. Whether, you know, I can't stress that enough. But don't, like you said, don't give them everything. Make them work for it. Set boundaries. Tell them I'm not gonna. Don't glorify the fact, oh, my baby did, you know. Community, we like to glorify the fact, oh, he just did this. No, that's not a good thing that we did that. You know what I'm saying? So let's stop glorifying that like it's something to be praised, you know. And it's sad because the community, unfortunately, the dynamic of our culture is, bro, the killers and the drug dealers and all these, they gonna get glory. They gonna get praised. But Mr. Jones, who been working down the street for 30 years at the factory, he getting who been taking care of his kids, who been a good man to his wife, who a good man to the community, he gets overlooked for the killers and the drug dealers. Why are we praising them, you know? And but when your loved ones come home, be a good support system, you know. Like I said, set boundaries with them. Don't give them everything, but if you're able to put them in a position to make new moves, then do that. But also give them enough grace to grow, man, because it's a new thing getting out. You know, you can't just get out and everything like, oh, it's I'm not gonna face any of the, you know, those distractions. Yeah, when you're in the joint, it's easy to walk away from some of them distractions. When you're out, it's so much harder, man. So much harder because you ain't got nothing holding you back now. You know, I get a write up in the joint and I could lose 6 months of good time. So then I'm hit. But out here, if nobody catch me, I ain't got nothing to worry about. And I know how to move. You know what I'm saying? You just got to give people enough grace, but you also got to help them. It's not just on the families, bro. It's on the village. It's on their friends. It's on their peers. It's on the coworkers. It's on everything. It takes a village, bro. It takes a literal village, man. I intentionally I had to rehabilitate myself, bro. I wasn't looking for the system to rehabilitate me. I had to check myself all the time. I have to self-reflect all the time. Why are you getting so mad, Clay? Well, I got to understand that anger is a secondary emotion to what I'm really feeling. Or maybe I'm insecure, or I'm feeling less than or belittled, or, you know, and then I had to check that. Why do I feel like these things? You know what I'm saying? But man, we just gotta, it takes a village, man. I cannot enough, dog.
And look what she shared right here, Miss Curry. She says, this is helpful. I have a brother serving 18 years to life, and I often wonder how to support him. I hope we have a reentry day of God sees fit. I appreciate your wisdom.
You know what would help him doing 18 years of life? Even if it's only once a month, even if it, you know, it could be once a week, it could be once every 2 weeks. I know for me, just checking in, man. A handwritten note means everything to an inmate. You feel, because in the cells at 3:30, when they do shift change at 2, at 3:30 they come to pass out mail. And when you could be asleep, you can hear the mail get slid under your door. You hear it. You know what I'm saying? Or it's put in your door or something. You know, your bunkie saying, "Hey, bro, you got mail," or you looking and it's mail for you. Man, you know how that is to know I'm not forgotten, bro.
Yeah, no, not forgotten.
That thing to not be forgotten, bro, is one of the biggest things. You know, in the movie, have you ever seen the movie Troy?
Yeah, Troy. Mm-hmm.
Remember, Achilles went to go fight the war because his mom said, you could not, she said, if you fight in that war, you will surely die, but your name will live and everybody remember you. But if you don't, you'll live and nobody will ever remember you.
Remember you. That's deep.
People don't want to be forgotten, bro. You know,
that's true.
No
and
matter
to add to that, Miss Curry, too, like you said, during that time, during this process, like, encouraging him to, learn different things, learn different skills, learn different trades. Because a lot of prisons nowadays, especially when you're serving time, get into your word. Your word is a sword, for your direction, for your path. And, like I was just mentioning that most prisons, most federal places, a lot of them offer trade programs. They offer different type of skills, skill sets. So tell him to reform his mind. I don't know what type of person he may have been, or the type of status he may have carried, but to be prepared to know that, listen, 20 years of my life, but anything can happen. He could probably come up before that. But 20 years of my life is about to be wasted. But you can waste it in a good way or you can waste it in a bad way. By wasting in the good way is meaning taking advantage of everything that's there. The programming, get some college courses. Education is very important. Never sit there, with an idle mind. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. So I encourage you, you check up on them, send them some motivational books, send them books of people that are successful. Like I have another book that's coming out pretty soon that's called like the reentry strategies. So these are some things that have people pondering like, wow, what are some steps I can take for when I do get out? Because when you get out, mind you, 20 years, of your life gone, especially if you're going when you're older, you don't have much life left. I mean, you could go out and work. You know what I'm saying? I'm quite sure you can attest to this, Mr. Clay. Like you can, you out on that road. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you may think like that. Like, is this going to be all it is to life, or am I going to create a destiny? Am I going to create some passive income? Am I going to create something that's going to generate some wealth later on in the future for my children? So it's just a number of things that that you can encourage him with, and and that's just to add just a couple. You know what I mean? A little something, Mr. Clay. I know we coming up on the hour now, but we know we probably end at the top of the hour. But I want to throw this out on Ms. Allison here. She said we found peer education training useful for the peers. Certifications used in the community allowed for transferable skills. That's true. She said while incarcerated, helping helps the helpers too. We held graduation each cycle, and all graduates stayed in the program as mentors, earning community service hours and 50 cents for each recorded teachable moment. Said based in the walk tall model, using HRE the trainer's curricula. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I know like a lot of different places offer peer assistance and things like that in different prisons and stuff like that. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, so actually I'm working with a brother named Terry Martinez. He runs the prison program for Christ. People that were formerly incarcerated could go back in the penitentiaries and talk to people about Christ, because people who've never really lived that life can't really talk about that life or what they're facing and so on and so forth. Not saying they're not educated or they're not qualified or nothing like that, but it hits different when somebody that lived that way can tell you, bro, there's something better. Just like when Paul became Paul, he used to tell people like, bro, I used to be the most zealous Jew. I used to, if they did this, I would slaughter them. And then I came to know, and people listen to his testimony because he used to be the most zealous. Like I said, my past, I'm so grateful for my past, bro, because it's actually propelling my future, bro. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't have all this lived experience and wisdom and knowledge from doing all this stuff, I wouldn't be able to speak on it and affect the people that I affect now. It's the blessing that I've actually won. I'm, like I said, grateful for this.
Let me ask you this. If by any chance, if you were able to give some feedback to individuals that's locked up, locked down in the halfway house, recovery house, if you give them some wisdom, understanding, some encouragement, what type of words would you give to them?
Christ is the way, bro. I'm telling you, I know it sounds cliche, but when you tap into that spiritual power, man, you will not even believe where it'll take you. And also you got to change that mindset, bro. You got to get out the prison of your mindset of feeling like you got to live up to the expectations of other people, man. You know, once you can get out the prison out your mind, your whole world will open back up. You know, right now we're just caged in the thinking. So once we can change that thinking and these cognitive distortions, man, you know, you'd be surprised how far you'd actually go in life with all the stuff that you've experienced. You know, they say if you wrote a list of all the stuff you've been through in your life that you've overcame, and you wrote it all down on some paper, if they put you in a comic book or something like that, you'd be considered a superhero, you know, because of all the stuff you've got over. So if you can get over all that stuff, you can get over this. This is nothing, you know. You're your biggest asset and you are your biggest liability, you know. So make your next move your best move, as my brother would always say.
Wow. And that's powerful. That's powerful. And Mr. Anders, Mr. Clay Anders, we really appreciate you being on the show. We got some people here. I'm just shouting people out. Miss Curry here. She said, amen. Here goes Miss Allison Jordan. She's actually responding back. Miss Curry. However, one can contribute and have a sense of purpose seems to help. I have also witnessed that knowing you have people who care makes a big difference. That's absolute. Okay, it's cool. You can have your dog on camera, man. What's up, man? We got a lot of animal lovers on here. You know what I mean? They like to see, you know, the dogs. You know, what kind of dog you got there?
He's a bully. He's a hybrid bully, man.
Hybrid bully. Okay, do you breed?
Yeah, I do actually.
Oh, you do breed? Okay, cool. May you have some people in there may want to purchase, man. You know, yeah. I know a couple people that breed different bullies and things like that as well. Yeah, they're pretty good, man. But shout out to Brother Universal. Universal, appreciate you tapping in. Brandy McQueen, we appreciate you tapping in from Chicago all the way to Vegas. Appreciate you, Dwayne, Philadelphia, Miss Jackie Hallberg. A lot of these people are showing love off of LinkedIn. Miss Curry, we appreciate you. Thank you. Bayok Thomas, Love of Life. Miss Allison, thank you. We appreciate it, Miss Allison. Yeah, a lot of powerful stuff. Clay, keep it up, she said. Miss Curry, we appreciate y'all. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Clay, if you want to go ahead and shout out anybody. You know, I know you got the trucking company. How can they contact you? Yeah. What are your social medias?
I want to shout out Senator Kathleen South here in Nebraska. I want Nathan, he's the president of Warner. Nathan, ProFleet, Driving Academy, Hill Brothers, and the Department of Corrections, Rob Jeffries. Without him, couldn't have made a lot of this happen. But you can go to honestyprojectinfo.com to see what we do. It's Honesty Project Info on Instagram, Honesty Project of Lincoln on Facebook, and check out how we help the community. If you have suggestions, please send them our way, because I do not have all the answers, but I would love to hear new ideas that we could be implementing to help the community and those in it.
Yes, indeed. We appreciate that. And Ms. Curry had actually said, when is the next one? Ms. Curry, we actually air the Every Key Entry Connect podcast on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Not unless, you know, if I have to adjust to somebody else's schedule or something like that. Well, feel free, you know, you got an inbox if you want more insight. We can even have your brother that you said is doing time come on here to voice his opinion about things going on in the prisons. But yeah, so we appreciate everybody stopping through and coming through and supporting the Interconnect podcast. I'm your host, Keenan Hudson. Here it is with Mr. Clay Anders, man. We appreciate having you, man. The Honesty Project.
Thanks
you. Man, until next time, yeah, we definitely gonna have you on again, man. We're gonna have like a nice little group discussion where it's like 8 of us, 9 of us here on the screen, just sharing our thoughts and concerns, man. You know what I'm saying? So, without further ado, thank everybody. Everybody, y'all go ahead and have a good night. We appreciate everybody doing the support. All right.
Have a good
Peace.
one. Bless.
All right, y'all.